Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece episodes 360 through 362. Save me, hero. My enemy is the immortal princess. Perona is terrified. Usopp and Untruthful share the same you. And slashes dancing on the rooftop. Showdown. Zoro versus Ryuma. Honestly, you guys, every time I read these titles, it just takes my breath away. In these episodes, Usopp goes up against Perona, and she manages to fake him out just long enough that he begins to completely lose faith in himself. And then all of a sudden, he's like, but what would Sogeking do? And I feel like that's a really good tactic for all of us every day in our lives. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very, very much to the One Piece crew for commissioning this episode. Thank you so much, you guys, because I am really needing the goofiness of Thriller Bark in my life right now. It has been a rough time, and this show is... I won't say that, like, of course I am enjoying everything I'm covering, actually. There are times where I will have a particular property, then when I see an episode is coming up, I'm kind of like, oh boy, because I maybe don't like it that much, or it's in a particularly heavy part of the story that feels like it's going to be a drag. And I'm not really in that space with anything I'm covering right now. I'm pretty much 100% on all of it, which is great. But a lot of it is the sort of thing that there's like a much more nuanced conversation to be had. There's a lot of like real world implications, allegory, metaphor that brings up some intense conversation. And it's not that never happens with One Piece, but it doesn't happen like super often. And I really appreciate getting a bit of a reprieve from some of the heavier shit, because you just gotta have something to lighten it up every once in a while, kiddos, you know? So anyway, this first episode, Save Me, My Hero, My Enemy is the Immortal Princess, is a delight, because when it says Save Me, My Hero, at first I see that title and I'm thinking, this is Perona yelling that? Like she's doing, you know? Well, what it really is Usopp calling upon his own alter ego. And I have talked a lot about what a great idea I think this is. And you guys, if I could just remember to attempt this method in the moment, that would be enough to satisfy me about whether it works or not. But I never do. I never remember. And I think that part of it is I don't really have like a super solid alter ego. I need something specific. I need a name and I need like a vibe. And I'm going to think about it and kind of try and figure out a thing. And I encourage everybody who is listening or watching to also do this. Come up with your alter ego. And it doesn't have to even like really make sense, you know? My temptation is always to like pick things that are real about myself and then expand on that. But like, what if I just didn't do that and I did whatever the fuck I felt like? There's also that. So I think that as a group, we should all just give this a shot. See if the theory checks out. And if it does, and it's kind of funny because like, it's basically another version of masking. And for those who are not aware, masking is a behavior exhibited by usually neurodivergent people when they consciously choose to take on personality traits that are not like theirs, or they are, but you know what I'm saying? That personality traits that they lean on and exaggerate for the situation. And I understand that a lot of people who are not neurodivergent are just like, well, everybody just sort of leans on the parts of their personality that they need to in any given situation. But it's not really the same thing. And it's something that I have only recently begun to truly understand about myself, that I've been doing my whole life. And I would be like the life of the party, but I would also like have to go into the bathroom and hide for a little bit and have a tiny panic attack and wonder why I was freaking out and what was wrong. And then pull it back on and go out there again and be cool. And I just didn't get why I was able to play this role, but also be freaking out. And now I understand that it was like, because it genuinely felt like a role. It really wasn't me. And there are times where it is genuinely me just having a ball. But unfortunately, that's not as like easy to call up as you think it's going to be. Even when you are having a good time, if your brain is like kind of your enemy, it can just fuck with that, you know? Demian says, in all uncertain situations, ask yourself 2 questions. What would Jean-Luc Picard do? And what would Kairos Theodosian do? Well, I am not familiar with either of those properties. I know Jean-Luc Picard, well, like what he is from, but I have never watched it. And Kairos Theodosian is not a name that I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly. Florian says, oh, I'm sorry. I missed it, Florian. Exams week, so stressed out. I'm sorry. But good luck, bro. I know you could do it because you did it before and you thought you didn't do it, but then it turned out that you had done it. So just saying. So yeah, let's give Florian a fucking alter ego that he can call on for his exams. Anyway, so yeah, this whole like section here is all about Usopp going up against Perona. There's like a little bit where we dodge over to everybody else, but that's really where we're focused on. And he is so feeling like so good about his position with everything. And the last episode, reminder, ended with her like floating outside the window. So he's really kind of like struggling because when he sees her out there, he thinks like, oh shit, I have an enemy who can fly, which isn't great for me. And, you know, he's not wrong about that. If you're facing an enemy, I think most of us would really just prefer that they not be somebody who can fucking fly. But I was very, very quickly starting to put it together when she shoves her hand into his chest, guys. And there is this long, drawn out, like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my hands around your heart and I'm going to squeeze it until you die. So enjoy this. She says something like exquisite agony, something that's like really dark. And genuinely, you guys, I was kind of like freaking out. You know, genuinely felt like, how is it that she could do this? And this isn't what she started with. What the fuck? And I was trying to keep in mind that the last time we saw a hand apparently go through somebody, that was Robin, right? I think it was Robin. And she manages to like make it look like her hand went through, but that's not what actually happened. So I was attempting to like see through what she was doing here, but I couldn't quite figure it out. And I am not expecting, what happens is that because she's like not solid, she can't actually do this. But what I was thinking was that she could actually do it, and Usopp was just about to be like saved in the nick of time by something, whether that be one of his friends swooping in or a sudden collapse of a wall, you know, the way that things happen in this show. But no, it turns out she just can't do it. And that was when I started to be like, wait a second. She like goes around this corner and vanishes, and now all of a sudden can turn up and fucking fly and put her hand through his body, and all of this feels like the kind of thing that if you're in a fight, you would have like done by now, you know? If she could do this, there's no reason to turn tail and sprint away from him. And rightfully, Usopp is asking this question as well. He says something like, where did all of this confidence come from? You were literally running for your life. And she says, basically, I had time to regroup. Like her whole... That's her whole answer. Is just, well, you caught me by surprise. I'm not used to being up against people who can't fight back or who can fight back really well. And I panicked for a minute, and now I have like realized I don't need to run from you. And I was just like, maybe it seems weak. And it turns out that the reason that this all happened is she ducked into her room, and she can project her spirit out of her body as like a separate entity. But it takes Usopp a little while to figure this out, because he tries all kinds of attacks on her and nothing hits her. And he's genuinely beginning to fall into that place that he gets into sometimes, where he's just like, I can't believe I thought I could do this. I can't believe I told my friends that I would handle it. And not only can I not handle it, but I was sort of under the impression that my friends were going to be able to like pick up on the slack of whatever I couldn't take care of. But I'm not sure they can handle her either. If they all attack her and it just goes right through her, then what good are any of their skills? Valid question. So he begins to try and flee. And it's such a bummer because you guys, I mean, I think all of us are rooting for Usopp in these moments where we are just sad to see him like riding high and feeling capable, and then all of a sudden completely laid out and running for his life. And he gets stopped by fucking Kumasi, who whoops his ass. Kids, this bear is extremely rude. I wanted Kumasi so badly to turn to our side because he loves like being treated well and just needed an alternative to his cruel mistress. Doesn't happen. I keep forgetting, like, he is also a fucking zombie, so he's gonna do what he's told. But I just keep sort of feeling like the fact that he talks, I think, when she doesn't want him to, is what makes me keep thinking that he has got some free will, and he kind of only has like a drop of it, it seems like. So he's like standing over Usopp and punching him repeatedly. Right, left. I mean, it's brutal. It goes on for a minute, you all. Like, I really want to emphasize they do that thing where it's the animation of him punching and they just reuse the same animation repeatedly 3 times, this like sequence. And poor Usopp is in his head just being like, everything was going really well. I thought I could do this. I thought I could save them. And I can't believe that I lied to myself like that. And then he yells, "Please save me." And all of a sudden, he jumps up on Kumasi, shoves his hand down Kumasi's throat, and now he's got the Sniper King mask on out of nowhere. And he says, "Tell me, Sniper King, what would you do here?" And he drops the salt into Kumasi's mouth. The spirit the shadow leaves and Kumasi is fucking out. And I love this moment where Perona is like, first of all, how could you do that to my sweet Kumasi? Which I'm like, girl, look, I know Kumasi technically was your zombie, but you just didn't appreciate him. So like right out of the gate, I am going to say shut up because he deserved a lot better than you. And I don't want to hear it. But also, what I really enjoy about this is her saying, what's with that stupid mask? Because why wouldn't you ask that? It's a weird thing. You know, he all of a sudden, he's like getting his ass kicked on his back, repeated punches that are relentless, y'all. And then all of a sudden, he's beating, and I mean like really beating the bear by completely removing its like body from play. And he's wearing him, like, it does feel quite abrupt. And you would sort of think, if you were looking at this from the outside, that maybe the mask grants him some kind of power, which you could argue it does, but you know what I'm saying. An actual, like, physical power that's attached to it. And I love this. You're kind of feeling like, all right, go Usopp, let's do it. And he has the mask on when he starts to run away. Like, I was really thinking, oh, this is going to turn the whole fight around. It turns things around for Kumasi in the moment, and he's able to defend himself there. But he takes one look at angry Perona, and he's like, you know what, I'm out. And he begins to run. So as he's running, he is... First, we have the Sniper King song playing, which is just a classic, you guys. I love it so much. And then all of a sudden, we have Sogeking in his head, like the voice that he uses when he pretends to be him, speaking to himself. And this is something that I have done, where I sort of talk to myself, and it can help, actually, surprisingly, with getting through moments that feel really hopeless at the time. And you just sort of talk to yourself and go, all right, babe, so what are you doing? And why? What exactly do you think that's going to solve? Do you think this is going to help? Like, is this a genuine choice you're making, or are you just sort of automatically doing a thing because it seems like the thing to do? And I cannot tell you how often it turns out to just be that second thing. I frequently take action based on an instinctive, here's what I should do, that is not actually rooted in any information or knowledge, or, you know what I'm saying? And I really enjoy seeing Usopp sort of graduate to this point where he can adopt Sogeking and still be himself and have these kinds of conversations between his personalities, because it seemed before that he was either Sniper King or he was himself. And there has never really been a lot of feeling of overlap there. It's almost like he even considered himself to be a separate person from Sogeking. Like, not really, because, you know, when he talks about when he is, it seems, being left behind on Water 7 and has to yell and apologize, he says something to himself about how, like, they had to know that was me, right? Fighting with them. So, like, you know, it's not like a complete split personality thing, but it has always felt for me like he has such low confidence that to a point, he doesn't feel like what happens when he's Sniper King has anything to do with him. Does that make sense? So I just really liked this moment of the conversation he's having with himself. And he's saying, like, there's no way I can win against her. And Sniper King is like, that's not true. I know you can. Think things through. And as he's saying that, we have behind him Perona, who is summoning all of these, like, tiny mini little ghosts that she is sending after him. And this is when Usopp starts to be like, wait a second, you're right. Things were really, really weird when she came back after I like lost sight of her for a second. If she was impervious to my attacks the way she seems to be now, then she wouldn't have had to run. There would have been no point to it. And he's suddenly going, all right, something's up. And he says to himself, that's it. And I'm thinking, oh, sweet. That's it. He's going to turn around and no. That's it. Her attacks hit him. And he falls onto his face. Kids, the attacks that she keeps using, she uses the word rap, R-A-P, like either rap music or a rap on a door, you know, like knocking. And I don't really get what that's about. And I'm curious because, you know, the techniques that a lot of people have are thematically named, going with whatever it is their aesthetic is, or, you know what I'm saying? The only thing that I can think that sort of ties together using ghosts and the word rap is that during like old-fashioned seances in the Victorian era, there would be like rap twice if you can hear us, ghost. And that's the way they would use the word rap most often. So that's the only thing that I can think of is like, that's what he was getting at. But I'm really curious if there's anything else that you guys know of for why her techniques are named this way. And it's an interesting thing too that she used, like rap is contained in most of her techniques. And I don't feel like I've seen any other technique that had a word in each technique. Like I guess gum gatling, like when he says the name of the fruit, but what's the name of the fruit she's in? Is this is a devil fruit power, right? I'm assuming. Is it the rap fruit? Like, what is the deal with that? I'm just feeling like I missed something here. But anyway, so he turns around after falling flat on his face. Mask comes off, and he's laying there trying to decide what to do. And behind him, Perona is standing over him. She slowly like lifts up from the floor and is, I would guess, like about 30 feet tall. She is humongous all of a sudden. And, you know, the part of her that's like looking down on him, she is only waist high from the floor. Like, the floor is at her waist, and the crown that she's wearing is sort of scraping the ceiling. It is a pretty wild look, and understandably, he's just kind of like, what the fuck? Because it's enough already. You know, she just keeps showing off. So he's looking around at their surroundings because it's this huge open pillared area, which I don't think I am alone in this, probably. But all I could think about was the Mines of Moria and the attack of the goblins and the way that they come, like, you know, skittering down the pillars of the room and everything. This place, there's no need for it to be this big, frankly. It's ridiculous. But he's looking around and Seraphim says something along those lines is the best I've got for the name. The like ghost rap noise. Florian says the hollow fruit, I think. Oh, right. Okay, yeah. I forgot about that. Gus says, so she has negative hollows and mini hollows. The mini hollows work like remote bombs, which she can detonate by saying rap and snapping her fingers. I'm not sure where the rap comes from, but that seems like it could be right. Okay. So this is when he zeroes in on the room and he starts to realize, oh, okay, I think I've figured this out. And he says, I've figured out your trick. Perona is not hearing him, and she says, you know, what are your last words? Something like that, until she sees that he is aiming his slingshot to the room. And he does special attack Atlas Comet, which is a weird one. He shoots this one missile. It splits into 4, and then for a second you see this like bug that has 4 prongs, and I'm assuming that it's like an Atlas beetle or something. That's why it's called Atlas Attack. But it hits the door and blows it up, and then you see Perona, who is just kneeling on her bed, apparently unconscious. And the spirit of Perona is looking on all of this in horror, because she really thought she had this sewn up. And now all of a sudden it seems like he has figured out absolutely everything. So the next episode, we start with him like about to shoot at her body, that is, not like, you know, and she realizes what it is, you know, that he's figured out, and he shoots at her, but it apparently misses. And you guys, can I who else's heart sank? I should have known better. I really should. But I genuinely was like, oh my God, did he just miss? Come on, man. Like, I should have known better. I'm so mad at myself. I'm so disappointed in myself. So he uses this. It doesn't appear to hit. The body is fine. And Perona is thinking to herself, well, you did miss, but that was still way too close. And she takes aim at Usopp with the special hollow, which is a huge ghost. I mean, the other ones had been about the size of like tennis balls, I would say. This one's about the size of like a bus. And it opens its mouth and just starts to chew on Usopp. And I was sort of like mad on his behalf that this thing that looks like it should be insubstantial is able to actually touch and hold him in place. Like, this just seemed, there should be some more rules. I don't know. I'm just saying. So as he's struggling, Perona, her spirit goes back into her body, because she wants to be able to move out of the way before he is able to attack again. But she doesn't take it seriously that she really needs to move as soon as she can. She's just so overconfident, really, you know, is what it comes down to. So I'm going to come back to everybody else. I'm going to finish the Usopp thing first, though, because obviously. So she shoots some like attack at him, and he is able to absorb it with the dial. And when he does, she's sort of like, well, how did you do that? And leans forward and realizes that she can't lean, actually. And we find out that the apparently missed shot from earlier was a bluff, and it's a sticky star bullet. He wanted her to go back into her own body. That way he wouldn't have to kill 2 of her, basically, or take care of 2 of her. As long as he was able to put them together, it would be the one battle, and that would be it. So he's about to handle this, and this giant ass fucking hippopotamus, Lieutenant Hippo Gentleman, appears behind him out of nowhere. And it really looks like this is going to be what saves Perona. But Usopp, when he absorbed the impact with the dial, reminder that the dial absorbs that like kinetic power and saves it. So Usopp turns around and uses that on the hippo, who just goes down immediately. It turns out to kind of not be an issue. Like this really felt like the dude in oh my God, Red Rum, The Shining, that's the one. You know, the guy that it's like he works at the hotel and the kid calls asking for help and he drives all the way up there and it's really feeling like he's going to be able to fix things and put it right. And he walks in the door and just immediately gets conked on the head with a fucking like axe. And that's the end of him. And you had all of your hopes hung on him and it was just immediate defeat. That's kind of how I felt about this hippo gentleman. He shows up. Perona is just like, oh, this is perfect timing. Thank you so much. You're going to save my life. And before he could do anything, completely wiped out. So then we get this really bizarre moment. So Usopp has first of all, giant missile that he calls Special Attack Shiny Black Star. And he launches it at Perona. It pops open. And there are all of these roaches in there. Now, he says later that they aren't even real roaches, but they move. So I'm really like not sure how they, but okay, I'll trust him. And Perona, in a moment where I am in complete accord with her, screams her head off. You do not understand. I know I've said it before, but I will say it again. I hate bugs so much, y'all. I really do. There are certain fears that are like stereotyped as being really girly fears, being afraid of mice and jumping on a chair to get away from the mouse, for instance, is like such a trope that it's almost a cartoon thing now. I don't have that kind of fear of mice. I feel like, I get it, mice. You just want the same things I want. You want somewhere warm and soft to chill out. You want some food to eat. It's hard for me to be mad at an adorable little furry mouse. A bug, though, I have tried to pretend a lot of my life that bugs don't get to me. And it's a lie. The only bugs that I am pretty much okay with are spiders. And I know that they don't count as insects because but shut up. It's fine. I can deal with spiders because as far as I'm concerned, we're on the same side. They also want to make sure bugs are gone. They want to do it by eating them, which I can respect. Go at it. Thank you for taking care of them. Any other kind of bug, though, even bugs that are like allegedly cute bugs, like ladybugs, they're only cute on an individual basis. If you get any more than like 3 of them at a time, you're starting to get into the territory that I don't like. And if you get like a real crowd of them, it's truly the kind of thing that appears in my nightmares. I fucking hate them. I don't care what bug it is. There are some that are worse than others. But this moment with the roaches, it's a fucking cartoon, you guys, and I found myself recoiling from the screen. I know that this doesn't actually do anything to hurt her. It's not like roaches like attack people exactly, or if they do, it's so rare, I've never even heard of it. But just the fact that they are like gross and ugly is enough to cause her to absolutely lose her mind, which, considering how much she values cuteness, makes sense to me. That tracks. And so they're moving around on her, and he had called it like Black Star Attack or whatever, and then he's like also known as the Roach Star, and she's just like stuck in place with these things crawling all over her, and she's trying to get them off, but she can't move, and she's really starting to lose it. And then all of a sudden he's like, now I'm gonna do the other thing, and he has this 10-ton hammer. This is so funny because we know this thing isn't real. We've seen the whole thing with like the alleged giant hammer, but what I always enjoy about these is like, where is he storing this? It's so huge. So he says to her, you shouldn't have underestimated me. You thought you were going to deal with me really quickly. I'm offended. I used to be known as like the strongest man in the East Blue. And he makes a big show of slowly lifting this huge hammer and brings it down on her. And like, we know that it's an actual balloon, like it's not real. But Perona is so thoroughly freaked out here that even though this thing basically like pops and explodes and does nothing, she passes out from fear. And Usopp says something to her as he's walking out about how like she attempted to use illusion and lying to beat him, and she should have known not to try and play him at his own game. And I was like, oh, that's a really good point. I didn't think about the fact that like she was using some of the same tools as Usopp. She isn't really a strong fighter. She has just got the tools to make herself seem a lot more intimidating than she really is. So yeah, same principle. And I can't help it, y'all. I kind of ship Usopp and Perona now. Like, I don't know. I know that this isn't really like the right approach, the way I should be. This is like a toxic trait. But I don't know. There's just something about the way they each have decided to move through the world. And I feel like they would drive each other nuts, but in a way that would work. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just going to put that out there. I haven't really met anybody that I like shipped Usopp with before. This is it. This is my first official ship. This is it. I really feel like the two of them would work out. It would be a good match. You know, they would challenge each other. I feel like they could each come up with really cool new ideas for like how to use their abilities to like intimidate people and win fights. They would work really well as like a tag team, fighting against somebody and like using each of their abilities in different spots. I just think this would work out. I like it. So, Demian says they're just mechanical prank roaches. I think he bought them in Logetown when he bought a whole load of other junk, including his goggles, before the crew even entered the Grand Line. Oof, I do not remember that, but I believe you. Even though maybe I shouldn't believe you, I don't know. Seraphim says, cue the emotional damage meme. I don't know that meme. Oh, I'm sorry. Gus says, and she just saw him knock out Gentleman Hippo with one punch too in the mind games in this fight. You're right, Gus. I didn't think about that. The fact that he does that makes it seem like he is super strong. So he's got the precedent in her head already. I didn't think about that, but you're totally right. Demian says a lot of people ship them. Yes. Florian says, yeah, I ship them too. A low-key ship for me. Agree. I'm glad we're all on the same page here. All right. So let's, this is basically like the end of the deal with Usopp in this section. I'm going to jump over to Luffy. He is still fighting Moria, and it is like, I'm realizing that I said the other thing looked like the Mines of Moria, and then, how about that? This fight, it's so bizarre, because it's basically just Gecko Moria trying to waste Luffy's time and like fuck with him. He's fighting back with his shadow. So there's a weird energy to it because he's not actually fighting himself. And therefore, it doesn't feel like a fight. It feels like him sitting back and watching like a performance that's like just fun. You know, there's no sense of him feeling concerned or worried about what's happening at all. He is full of confidence that Luffy is not going to be able to get past his shadow, and that in a short time, they are going to be visited by 900, who is on his side anyway. And we find out in this section, and, you know, they keep moving the goalposts, but I can't say that I'm, like, upset about it at all. It makes sense in its weird way. We have Luffy still, the zombie of him, wandering around, fucking things up. He gets his big stone hat back, and he's wandering through the jungle at one point, and he stops and is sort of like, what am I even doing out here? Because we know he's trying to become king of the pirates. That's his whole thing still, even in this form. But he stops and he's sort of like, this is just, the vibe is off. What's happening? I feel like I was coming out here for something. I can't remember what it is. And all of a sudden, he's like, oh, wait a second. I shouldn't be out here. I should go back to the castle where my master Moria is, because he needs me. And now I'm genuinely super sad. He's turning around and heading that way. And I'm like, God damn it. I really thought maybe we had a little bit more time. And, you know, Moria just keeps on like taunting Luffy about how, oh, let's see what a big man you are when you have to fight yourself when you come back here. And Luffy's, I don't know how much Luffy understands about 900. Like, this will be a very interesting fight. But, the zombie 900 is heading back to the castle, and we have got, what is his name? Winston? I always forget his name, you guys. But he is outside and he's talking to some of the other zombies about how 900 is sort of outside of our control right now. And like, yes, he is going to eventually be under the will of Gecko Moria, but it isn't consistent, because not only does it take a while for somebody's personality to be sort of overwhelmed by the will of Gecko Moria in general, but because 900 is so huge, it's going to take longer and be kind of an on and off thing. So we watch 900 oars going back and like having these moments where he wants to fight everybody because they're ruining his fun. And then stopping and being like, oh, wait, no, I shouldn't fight them. Hilden, thank you guys. Seraphim, regarding Usopp and Perona, I can see it. Her constantly trying to make him cute, him being irritated because he wants to look manly. I see that. Moria would totally break out the popcorn if he had any right now. He really would. Like, he just seems like, there's something about Moria that really gives drag queen, even though this is a male character. Demian says he has big impassively watching a toddler have a tantrum energy. Oh man, that's pretty good. Guys, I don't know how people deal with children. The tantrums, I can just be a bystander, and I find it so draining to watch. Also, I get deeply jealous. Like, I know that there are some people who are adults and still have tantrums out in public, and I don't want to be like them, so I don't. But I can't deny, there's a part of me that wishes I was allowed to, societally, without being judged, just have a complete fucking meltdown in front of absolutely everybody over anything. That's my favorite part about the tantrums that toddlers have, is that the tantrums occur for no reason. It could be the weirdest shit. So, anyway, Florian says, I like Moria. He's so chill and not bothered. I have to say, I enjoy Moria a lot more than I was expecting. I sort of, I think it's just the fact that he has the shadows, so he doesn't have to engage with Luffy quite yet. in the way that we've seen every other villain have to do. And his abilities are so bizarre that he can make this like army of people that our friends have to, they're all like zombies almost, that our friends have to take down before they get to the what are they, the Mysterious Three? And so that's also really fun. I just, I don't know. There's something about Moria that I find a lot more enjoyable than some of the other villains that we've come across. But I think also the fact that, like, is what he's doing in general by taking shadows and making zombies cruel? Yes. You know, just at its base level. But he doesn't seem to be a super cruel person in the way that some of the bad guys we've seen have been. You know, like Spandam. I mean, that guy was a true monster. And it wasn't fun to watch one episode after another of him just beating the shit out of Robin, who is helpless. Like, it's just not fun. It sucks. He sucks. Watching Robin be helpless sucks. Watching any dude beating a woman up sucks. And I think it's just like getting this bit with a villain who is a little bit more fun, a little bit more wacky, and his weird shadow can do so many things. It works a lot better to me. So anyway, I do really enjoy too all of these like these zombies that are talking to Hilden are like, you can't be serious that he was able to take out all of the zombie generals in one shot. It had to be that they just had their guards down, right? And then you see Orr's like doing his Gatling, and he's like, he says gum Gatling, but he's like, but it's not really going to be rubber, is it? And he's about to do it, and they all seemingly suddenly realize, oh, this is how they all got completely like wiped out. I see. But yeah, he stops himself just in time, and I'm really wondering how many more sort of breaks we're going to get where his personality continues to shine through between the moments where he is under Moria's control. I really, really love the fact that he's still saying that he's going to be king of the pirates as well. So I am going to jump over now to Zoro. We have a whole thing with Zoro. He is fighting against Ryuna. Is that his name? The zombie samurai. And the two of them really go hard. And there's a point at which, God bless him, Brooke is watching and is like, I thought I was doing pretty good against this guy. But now that I see him fighting Zoro, I realize I was never going to stand a chance. Like, that dude, when he was fighting me, was going at like 20%. And there is something about that which I find really sobering. It's just, can you imagine like finding out you were really going all out and thought you stood a chance against something, and then you back up and find out that you were not only nowhere close, but that they were not going anywhere near all out because they didn't have to, because you were just that pitiful in comparison to what they could do. I mean, that's tragic. I would just be so embarrassed. I felt so bad for Brooke here. Like, that is just a blow to your ego, no matter what, you know? Especially, like, Brooke really worked hard. He tried to improve, and he clearly did improve. Ryuma, thank you, Seraphim. You know, Ryuma even tells him he improved. It's just like, hey, good for you. You've definitely gotten better. So, like, Brook is really trying. And then you realize like there was no way, it was never going to happen. So, long story short, him and Zoro have their whole like, oh, you think you're going to take my sword from me? Yeah, I'll take your sword from you. Well, you can't take my sword from me. Well, I'm going to take your sword from you. How do you propose to take this sword from me? I'm going to kill you and take the sword from your corpse. Well, we'll see about that. Yes, I guess we will see about that. It is a whole lot of just, we get it, guys. Just go ahead. Just fucking start. Okay, go. Which they do. And this fight is pretty fun. Like the dramatics of how much damage they can do with their swords. And like they're starting to fuck the whole tower up and eventually wind up out on the roof, and they're cutting portions of the roof off, and each of them like sort of starting to lose their balance and yada yada yada. And eventually there is a attack that Zoro uses that like causes his wound to ignite. Causes Ryuma's wound to ignite. And I love there's a moment where Ryuma's basically like conceding to Zoro and just being like, all right, well, you are the person that my sword is going to live on with. And the sword will be satisfied by, you know, a fighter who is as good as you. And he says something about like the shame of losing. And I love Zoro just being like, well, as long as you're ashamed, I'm happy. And I was like, damn. So he dies. Zoro gets this like legendary weapon. And Brook gets his shadow back and immediately does like I'm trying to think of what you would even call it. It's bridge pose in yoga, but he does that sort of thing where you like bend backward and put your hands on the ground behind your feet. And it's like saying to Frankie, look, my shadow does what I do. To which Frankie is like, of course it does. That's what shadows are for. Who cares? And Brook's like, you don't get it. Stop ruining it for me. I really enjoy the two of them together. But I'm just really happy that Brook gets his shadow back. I'm hoping that the fact that he got his shadow back means that he will go with them. But I'm worried that he's just going to like go back to see Laboon and then leave the crew. And honestly, I would be very down for his energy to stay with the crew. I would like it. He just has a totally different vibe than anybody else on board. I'm for it. Anyway, so the last thing that I've got to talk about is the fight with Nico Robin and the Sanji zombie, as well as the Zoro zombie. She's got this Zoro zombie, you guys. I feel like I have failed every time I see this zombie's design to really fully appreciate all of the truly bonkers elements of its costume, because it is in this like weird, it's almost like a float that you know, one of those like pool floats that goes around your waist kind of thing. And I don't know what it is, but he's wearing a kind of like, it almost looks like the kind of diaper a samurai wears underneath it. And so there's a real energy of being almost naked to this guy. It is so weird, combined with the like bizarre design of his head and the shirt that says your song for whatever reason. There is more to this particular like design than I gave enough attention to. And at this point, I don't feel like I want to go bit by bit over it, but I just wanted to acknowledge that the fact, again, that Luffy thought this guy looked just like Zoro is really remarkable. And the whole fight, like, we see we see Robin, and she is about to handle this guy, but this creature is maintaining enough of Zoro's personality that when the Sanji penguin, I like hesitate to use that word because it's got a dog face, so I don't like to call it a penguin, but I guess when he comes into play, the two of them immediately start fighting in the exact way they do when in their regular forms as living men. And guys, I'm sorry. I'm looking at this fucking thing, and he's got a hole in his upper lip right below his nose, and I don't know if that's supposed to be a very small mustache, but it doesn't really look like one. Like, the shape of it feels wrong. It's a little bit off center, and the sash that he's got around his waist, because it's got those like vertical stripings, I keep thinking that it looks like he's got dynamite strapped to himself. And the sort of float ring that he has, there's a skirt, I want to say, of these like long strands with beads hanging off the bottoms. I just don't know how to describe this thing. It is truly crazy looking. But, let's see. Doguin? I am so sorry. It's, we've got Seraphim and Demian in the chat saying Doguine. I don't know if you're referring to the float or the diaper or something else entirely, but I don't know how to pronounce that, so forgive me, but that's not super helpful for me because I don't even know what you're referring to. Feel free to leave me one of those little videos where you show me how to pronounce a word from YouTube. There's like a whole channel that does fake ones of those where they show people how to pronounce something completely incorrectly. And that just seems so like mean-spirited to me. They're talking about just the dog and penguin. Dogwin. Dog plus penguin. Got you. I thought you guys were talking about something with his outfit. I'm so sorry. So Robin is like trying to fight back against this zombie, and she is taken by surprise at how strong he is. He is absolutely more of a match for her than she was expecting. And as this is all happening, Chopper is just standing off to the side, observing this, not really helping. And this is when the Dogwin comes up and is like, now is not the time for you to just stand there and look cool. Which was sort of a weird reprimand, but okay. And he swoops up and just kicks Chopper across the room. And I truly detest this. He's hurting my Chopper. I do not like it. And after he hurts Chopper, he goes after Robin. To which Chopper says, you know that's a woman, right? And he says, that's a woman. And he says it in a tone like it really is important to him. But then he stops and says, who gives a crap? And Chopper's taken so off guard because he thought, okay, this dude has Sanji's personality. Not hitting women has been a major thing. But Chopper doesn't understand the fact that he is losing parts of his like personality, you know, as time goes on. And when he says who gives a crap and kicks Robin, it's in the middle of her almost getting to feed this other zombie salt and, take him out of play. She takes way too long about it, kids. She is doing the thing that I mistakenly did when I first started having to administer medication to my dogs and cat. You cannot approach it this way. You got to sneak up on them. You got to get it in their mouth before they really understand what's going on. You can't take your time. And so she misses because the fucking penguin knocks her down and the little salt ball breaks. And I was kind of like, look, I get that it's broken, but I feel like it would still work anyway. But I don't know how many of these she has. Maybe she's got others and we're fine. But I feel like we could scoop that up off the floor and still use it. And oh my God, Gus, I didn't even notice that. Gus in the chat says the funniest thing with him being the Zorro zombie. The funniest thing with him was earlier when he was with the rest of the general zombies, he walks off in the opposite direction from the rest of them, getting lost just like Zorro. I didn't even pick up on that, Gus. Genuinely didn't notice, but that is delightful. I really, really do enjoy that. So like I said, the two of them are just fucking arguing with each other, Zorro and Sanji zombies. And there's a moment where it's Dr. Hogback who says it looks like the battle's ended. And we've got Chopper on the ground with the penguin sitting on his chest. And we have the Zorro zombie pointing his sword at Robin. And she's on the ground and completely out of commission. And that is how things end with this grouping. So that's where we're going to have to pick up on the next set of episodes, is see how we can get them to release those shadows. All right. I am going to wrap up, but thank you guys again so much for hanging out with me, and I appreciate you all so much. Thank you to the whole crew for commissioning this episode, and I will see you again very soon with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.